Hi, and welcome to Why It Happened Breach Breakdown. In this episode, 5 eyes on your SD-WAN. So, Breach Breakdown, Why It Happened, is an opportunity for me to talk to you about particular incidents, vulnerabilities, issues in more detail, and go into some of the techniques used, some of the things you need to worry about, and give you a chance to understand more about this particular issue. So this is to do with a particular set of vulnerabilities, a particular compromise of a product called Cisco Catalyst. It used to be called vSmart, but the newer versions are called Cisco Catalyst. And what it does is it provides SD-WAN capabilities for organizations. You'll find a video about SD-WAN that I did a while ago in the description. But basically, SD-WAN allows you to connect different remote networks or systems to a main network so they can talk to each other in various trusted ways. So it might allow people who are working remotely or on different sites to connect to the main site, and for apps in the cloud, for instance, or on remote sites to be all part of the same network, and so you can use them without too much problem. And of course, if there is a problem in the SD-WAN, particularly if you can make it look like there's a trusted system on your SD-WAN which shouldn't be trusted, then there can be real problems, because that means that that system becomes part of your network and can do things which it shouldn't be able to do in certain circumstances. And that is exactly what happened in this particular case. So let's go through it in a bit of detail, shall we? The first thing is, where did the title come from? Well, I call it 5 Eyes on Your SD-WAN. And that is because there's a set of intelligence services and agencies called the 5 Eyes. That's what they're generally called. Whether that's an official designation or not, who knows. But they are the intelligence agencies of Australia, Canada, New Zealand, the UK, and United States. And they collaborate on a variety of state issues, but also in helping their citizens and organizations worldwide to protect themselves. And what happened in this case is that they identified this particular issue and they provided information, warning people about it, providing help to what to do about it, and explaining what the causes are. So I'm going to go through some of that, and a lot of this particular video comes from the information provided by those agencies. So the issue itself has a CVSS score of 10. That means it's a pretty major issue. Now, I've talked before about how just because something has a high CVSS score doesn't mean that it's a worry for everybody or in all contexts. But if you are using Cisco Catalyst, then you need to be aware of this. It's very likely to apply to you, and it's quite possible that very bad things could happen. So in this case, that score of 10 is, I think, justified and very relevant to many people. The other thing is it contains multiple CVEs. Because what happens is multiple vulnerabilities are used to create this compromise, which has been used in the wild, which means that people have actually used this, and there's a group known as UAT-8616, which is known to have exploited this set of vulnerabilities and to compromise real-world systems. So let's step back and talk about what actually happens. What's the mechanism for doing this? And once it has been, a system has been compromised, what are attackers able to do, and what have they done? So the first thing that the attackers do is to find a way to put a peer, that is a system, onto the SD-WAN to make it appear trusted. And it turns out that there is an authentication vulnerability in certain versions of Cisco Catalyst, which allows you to do this, allows you to make a system come onto the SD-WAN even if it's not fully authorized to do so, and gives it quite a lot of privileges. And one of the privileges it gets is the ability to change versions of software. And specifically what it does is it uses a downgrade capability downgrades a software version to an earlier version with a known vulnerability which it's going to use in the next step. So we're already 2 steps in. It's added itself to this SD-WAN. It's now downgraded the software on at least one machine. And once it's done that, it can use a vulnerability in that downgraded version, that earlier version of the software, to perform a privilege escalation. That means it suddenly has much higher capabilities, administrative capabilities, than it would otherwise have, and than it definitely should have. And basically, once it's done that, firstly, it allows it to become persistent. It allows it to stay where it is. And also, it gives it access to a whole bunch of capabilities such as root access, root SSH access. SSH is secure shell, which is used in many systems, particularly Linux and Unix systems, to administer machines remotely or locally. But also, it gets permission to do things like change, boot, and login initialization scripts. And once it does that, it can customize the environment. Basically, it can do pretty much whatever it wants. Create full user accounts, do things with user accounts and information that it shouldn't be doing. And this is the core issue. Once you've got control of the set of systems in the SD-WAN, there's many, many bad things that you can do. So it's a stepwise attack which leads to a privilege escalation which can then be used to do bad stuff. And on top of that, the people reporting this, the Five Eyes folks, have seen what they call defense evasion techniques. Defense evasion techniques are ways of stopping people who are trying to work out if there's a problem defending against you. So things like deleting log files and changing settings so that it's more difficult to see that there's something going on. So not only are they compromising the systems, they're also hiding the fact they're there, of course. So this is a really nasty attack. But the good news is that it's quite possible to find out that it's happening, and it's possible to fix it, to perform a remediation. And the Five Eyes have published what they call a hunt guide, which provides ways to find out if compromise has happened. They list examples from if suddenly you see machines on the network that you don't expect to see. They're called peers, surprising appearance of peers, basically. If you see this version downgrade happening in your system, that's a good sign that there may be something going on. If there are root logins that you don't expect to be happening, another good example. And also looking at the command line history, when seeing what commands have been used, see if those are ones you expect or they're things that you don't expect. So as I said, it's good news is it is possible to remediate, to fix basically a compromised system, and they give some examples of how you should do that. One of the key things, of course, is patching to make sure you're using the correct version, making sure that you're not at the old version, that you're using the most recent version. There are other information and things you can do like a network filtering and logging. But all in all, this is a nasty attack which we need to worry about. It is a multi-part attack. I explained how they put something on the network, they downgrade the software, they then do a privilege escalation attack, and then they hide. People who are using this hide what they've done. But it can be fixed. So I hope that's been useful. If you want to have more of these, you have suggestions or questions about this or anything else to do with cybersecurity, please subscribe to the channel. Give me a comment, ask me a question. I'll do what I can to help. This is Mike Blessell for Why It Happened, Breach Breakdown.